Hi guys, welcome back to class. Today we are going to continue our discussion on the civil rights movement. Can anyone in class remind me of some of the terms that we covered in last class?
The Jim Crow laws.
And what do you remember about those?
They legalized racism and they created the separate but equal laws across the United States.
Correct. Awesome. Anything else by show of hands? Yeah.
We learned about SNCC.
What do you remember about SNCC?
SNCC was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and they essentially kind of had meetings about voter registration and encouraged African Americans to register to vote, and they also helped set up the Freedom Rides in 1961, and they were very, all about the nonviolent protest movement.
Awesome. You guys are remembering a lot. Anything else? Yeah.
Medgar Evers, he fought to overturn segregation at the University of Mississippi, and he was a field officer in the NAACP, and he was actually assassinated for his role in civil rights.
Great. And then some other things we learned about, of course, were Martin Luther King Jr., we talked about the SCLC, and a bunch of other things. So today we're going to talk about somebody different. What made the civil rights movement so successful was not only the leaders who were a part of it, but the people who participated at the grassroots level, which basically means all the black citizens and even white citizens who were involved to try to fight racism. One such person was Fannie Lou Hamer. She was actually born in 1917 in Mississippi, one of the most notorious states for segregation and bigotry. And so she was born to two sharecroppers, which is basically a system that was set up in the South after slavery, where blacks who were freed and their ancestors worked for white plantation owners for very little money, and the job was very intensive and very hard, and some people even compare it in itself to slavery. So jumping down the road a little bit, in 1962, we already talked about SNCC, so you guys know what that is. She attended one of the SNCC voter registration rights meetings, and so she got very involved after that with the voting rights movement in the South to try to teach black people in the South how to register to vote. Basically, the deal with that was in the South, there were a lot of rules set up to make it so that blacks could not vote. And it was very violent and difficult, and they were very successful in allowing blacks not to vote. And so the whole purpose of this system was to get them to try to vote. So she became very involved in the movement, and in 1964, she helped with the creation of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which was basically a party that blacks and whites set up to try to combat and delegitimize the Southern Democratic Party. Yeah.
Right. Today we're going to be talking about a speech from Fannie Lou Hamer that she spoke at the Democratic National Convention in 1964. So take a chance to read through it, split into pairs, and I'll have you all read aloud and then discuss it afterwards.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Ruleville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis.
He said, "Well, I mean that." He said, "If you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave." Said, "Then if you go down and withdraw," he said, "you might still have to go because we are not ready for that in Mississippi." And I addressed him and told him and said, "I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself."
On June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom, and 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom.
I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered. All of this is on account of we want to register, to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hooks because our lives be threatened daily because we want to live as decent human beings in America. Thank you.
All right, thank you for reading that. What did you all like about this article? Yeah.
I just thought it was really interesting to learn about like the grassroots part of the civil rights movement from the view of one individual and like hear her specific story rather than like the people you always hear about like MLK.
Mm-hmm.
It was just interesting to hear about someone that you don't hear about as often.
Good. And what did you learn from this? Yeah.
Well, I learned, let's see. Oh, I learned about the literacy test, and it was interesting to like see her talk about that.
Yeah. So, literacy test is a really good start. Are there any other important concepts that you guys think are critical to this article? Yeah.
I think the voter registration workshops.
Mm-hmm. You guys can just yell these out.
At the beginning, they mentioned Senator Eastland and Senator Stennis, and I'm guessing that they might have represented the segregationists of the Democratic Party. Am I right?
Yes.
Great.
Good job.
Police brutality.
Okay, good one. Anything else?
I thought the bus of the wrong color concept that she talks about was interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good one.
Fannie Lou Hamer talked about wanting to become a first-class citizen.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else, guys?
I think that's about it.
Okay.
That's a lot of the terms that I got from the article itself.
Yeah, it looks really good. We're going to do a quick workshop where we discuss whether these terms promoted civil rights or went against the civil rights movement. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to do a quick chart here. I don't know if I'm tall enough for this.
Okay, class, so we're going to continue our workshop. This is called a semantic features analysis. And what we're doing is we're taking the key concepts that you guys gave us about the article, and we're going to relate them to our overall theme of the civil rights movement. Okay, so let's start with SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Do you think it promoted civil rights or denied civil rights? Yes.
They were definitely promoting civil rights because they were trying to get voter registration and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, and what about the Jim Crow laws?
Yes. They denied civil rights. They made segregation legal and established a separate but equal.
Right, and Medgar Evers?
He was promoting.
Awesome. And the Freedom Democratic Party?
That would be promoting too.
Good. And then you'd probably say that the Southern Democratic Party denied it. And how about the Freedom Rides?
They promoted it.
Also promoting. Good. And then the literacy tests. Yes.
They definitely denied civil rights because if I remember right, that kept black people from being able to vote because they were really hard to pass.
Right.
And they didn't even make all the white people take them. It was just a way to keep black people from
It was a
voting.
part of the Jim Crow laws.
Right.
So, very good. And the voter registration workshops. Which category? Yes.
They would have promoted civil rights.
And why was that?
They were hosted by SNCC, and they helped Black people in the South register to vote, and they really supported them with different resources.
Excellent. And then segregationists.
They were definitely trying to deny civil rights, I think.
Right, and a lot of people in the Southern Democratic Party were considered segregationists. They did not want equality through the races at all. Police brutality.
That would be denying civil rights.
Excellent. And the bus of a wrong color concept that Fannie Lou Hamer brought up.
That would be denying it as well.
Correct. And then how about the first class citizen? First of all, do you guys understand what she was trying to say by first class citizen? What do you think she meant?
I think I understand it. I think it just means that a first-class citizen has the right to vote, maybe.
Okay, and then was there anything else that might contribute to being a first-class citizen?
I think maybe just having equal rights, like everybody. The fact that Black people were treated separately, and sort of they faced a lot of unequal legislation and policy, and so being first class means that you have access to the same things as everybody else.
Right, so we would definitely put this as promoted civil rights. Being a first-class citizen, Fannie Lou Hamer wasn't just talking about voting and all of these things. She really meant just being an American, like you and I. And African Americans in the 1960s weren't really considered normal Americans. They faced such inequalities and such harsh, living situations that they weren't considered a normal citizen. And she just wanted to be a normal American citizen. And that was her ultimate goal, and that was really one of the ultimate goals of the civil rights movement, was to get equality among the races. Now, before we end class today, I want you guys to do an exit slip for me, and just write down in your journals, take, just a couple of minutes. Obviously, we read Fannie Lou Hamer's speech to the DNC, and we're going to talk in our next class more about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So I want you to think about, how did this speech impact the DNC? Did it have any influence in the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act? Just think about it, kind of what you think is going to happen, predict a little bit, and then next class we'll be ready to talk more about the Civil Rights Act.